Talking about one identity manager connected system modules means there is a new target system type which is connectable to the identity manager. In version 8.1 of the identity manager, this new system we can connect to the identity manager. It's a privileged account management system. And if we talk about one identity products, it is one identity safeguard. Of course, it is possible to use the same connected system module to connect whatever else privileged account management system you want, but safeguard it's the one where the module was developed for. Because this is a cool new feature and it comes with a lot of functionality, processes, attestation impacts, recertification impacts, company policy impacts, and so on. We created a separate video series out of this. And if you are interested in the One Identity Pack module, which is the privileged account connection to just the One Identity Manager, then just look into that video series. It is One Identity Manager, a privileged account governance. And you can find it on YouTube, like always. Additionally to the new connected system modules or the new systems connectors we just developed for new target systems we want to connect, exists the upgrade, that means the enhancements of existing connectors. This is always something which is hard to describe in a video series, especially because we are talking about super technical things, and to understand the enhancements, typically I have to understand the functionality of that specific connector first, and that takes a lot of time. Honestly, if I hear about a new identity manager version and there are enhancements of connectors, the first thing I'm thinking about is what exactly I missed during the last couple of months in my synchronization projects for a specific system type. And with this information, I then just look into the release notes of the identity manager and figure out if for that target system an enhancement exists and if this enhancement maybe solve my problem. And this is what I will just suggest to do. Look into the release notes, figure out if there is something for your connected target systems, and drop all the other enhancements for all the other target systems, especially because if you don't have these systems connected, this information might be a little bit too much. For all the people who are interested, like consultants, for example, who have to connect for different customers a lot of target systems, you can then read as well the section out of the release notes and figure out if there is an improvement which is of interest for you. In this video series, this short essay should be the only thing I want to talk about, and I will directly move into things like synchronization enhancements and synchronization editor enhancements, which from my perspective is easier to show and more of interest for the global audience. Synchronization and provisioning is something that we all know from the identity manager. Please remember, synchronization is to get all data from the target system and to write it into the One Identity Manager database, or to completely compare the complete data set of data in the identity manager with the data in the target system in a way of that we can handle the differences. And provisioning is that what we name a single-shot operation. That means, for example, I create a new Active Directory account in Azure Active Directory or whatever else, LDAP, or something other else. Nevertheless, there's one problem with that duality of things, and this is that if something happens in the other system and it's not provisioned, that we run in something we can name inconsistencies. That means in the One Identity Manager database, it's something completely different or something slightly different configured than, for example, in the target system. Typically scenario for these type of things is, for example, if the complete target system is adminned by an identity and access governance tool like the Identity Manager, and somebody with administrative privileges in the target system world starts to work. Have an example, you are admin your users in Active Directory and somebody is using users and computers and it's beside of the Identity Manager changing things. In these circumstances, we have inconsistencies. That means the data in the Active Directory looks slightly different than the data in the Identity Manager. In the past, how to handle that? We had just to run another synchronization. And depending on the size of your Active Directory, that can take a while. Since version 8.1, we have now another way just to handle these type of inconsistencies besides the synchronization. Of course, synchronization works as before. You can run it on a scheduled basis as many times if you like, but you have to synchronize the complete system. That is what synchronization is. In the very past, the one or the other can remember that there was a discussion on some social media groups how to handle single operations, that means single synchronizations of objects. And the way around was always to create a fancy synchronization project with a super fancy filters, and with that specific filters, then it was possible just to synchronize a handful of objects. Now in Identity Manager 8.1, additionally to the synchronization, we have now the ability to synchronize just one single object. For example, somewhere in Active Directory users and computers add you to the domain admin group. The Identity Manager don't know something about it. The next synchronization will show it, but to be sure that this is not the case, now an Identity and Access Governance expert can directly click on a specific link. It's a task that says Synchronize Object, and the complete Active Directory account gets synchronized. Only this one. And this is what makes the difference, because to synchronize just one account or one object of a target system is much faster than to synchronize the complete set of all data. To handle that, we implemented a new method. It's an object method called read, and this object method cannot be called. Typically, therefore, a task is implemented. This object method can as well exist for any additional target system you add to the Identity Manager. And that means as well the customized versions. And the reason for is that the only thing you need is another entry just in DPR namespace has dialog table. And with that specific task in this specific table and a standard synchronization object, so we have to know that this target system is connected using the synchronization engine, the Identity Manager synchronization engine. Then if this is the case, this method can be called and therefore you can add a task. And to show you that in detail, I'm in the manager. As you can see, I chose the Active Directory where out of the box this feature is configured. I selected just groups as an example for object and just one single object. And if I click on one of these objects, you can see a new task here. It's synchronize this object. This will then at the end just synchronize this single object from the target system to the Identity Manager. To ensure that this works, I can just have a look into my object browser. This is another group object, but it is a group object. You can see that in Active Directory groups, and I can step into properties, and if I do so, I can step to the methods tab, and here it's then the method read. This is the customizer method that will then automatically do this synchronization. The whole method will call a specific event, and before it can call that event, the object class must have an entry, as we learned in DPR namespace has dialog table. Therefore, I can just step in another object browser. You can see that here, this is the table, DPR namespace has dialog table, and this is the entry that is necessary so that the whole thing can work. And last but not least, again in Designer, we find in the process orchestration for the Active Directory groups, here we are, a specific process which it's just looking for event read. And if I look into that, then I will find just one specific step. And this is an engine step and will just say synchronize this single property. I can just look into that. As you can see, it is a projector component, update projection, and it is exactly what we are looking for.